times during a breeding season, or that when the males sing, they sound like whining cats? Yes, the tricolored blackbird, which can be found locally here in California. The tricolored blackbird used to have population numbers of 3 million in 1930, but has since declined to roughly around 170,000 birds today. The tricolored blackbirds do hold a significance. They are the last remaining terrestrial species to form large breeding colonies, but unfortunately they do face a lot of human impact. The destruction of their habitat is most common. This is due to agricultural farming. But here in Monterey County at the Santa Lucia Conservancy, we conducted a banding study for the last 8 years. So what exactly does that consist of? So there are 3 sites that we do the banding study at. The first site is the Santa Lucia Preserve, Laguna Seca, and Fort Ord. And so we have custom-built walk-in traps that are baited with cracked corn and freeze-dried mealworms. This is to entice the birds so that they can wander inside the traps. Once the birds are caught, they are given 3 bands. The first band is an aluminum USGS band, which you can see here. This allows for individual identification. The last 2 bands are color bands that tells us the year and the location that the bird was originally caught. Having bands on the birds is very useful for us because it allows us to visually see that a bird has already been caught. If we are looking at a tricolor that is perched, as you can see here, perched on a tule or stinging nettle from a distance, and it has the color bands, then we know that that bird is now considered a recapture. So what exactly is a recapture? A recapture is a bird that has been caught more than once at either one or more location. And so, but why are recaptures so important for us? Well, when we're doing a study on a species population, we can't really know much from just catching one bird. Doing a study on just one bird doesn't really tell us much about the population as a whole. It doesn't really tell us much about the breeding habitats of that species. So, but when we have a bird that has been caught either 5 times or 10 times or even 3 times, that gives us a sufficient amount of data to work with. That lets us see where the population stands today or how that population is doing. It lets us know what their breeding dynamics are like when it is the breeding season. And so what exactly does that tell us? Well, as you can see here in my results, I've broken my data into 4 pie charts. The first pie chart, as you can see in figure A, is the average rate of recaptures at all 3 sites that we've done the banding at. It is then broken up into, in yellow, the unique recaptures versus individuals that have been caught once, and this is in green. So our average rate of recaptures at all 3 sites was 14%. And at a similar number here at the Santa Lucia Preserve in figure B, it was also 14%, and then a little bit lower at Laguna Seca, which was 11%, and then surprisingly enough, at Fort Ord, we had a 62% average rate of recapture. So what is going on at Fort Ord? What makes Fort Ord so interesting? Well, first of all, Fort Ord is a seasonally dependent site. So what that means is it depends on the rainfall. So during the dry years, the breeding site for the tricolors is not there. It is not available at all. There's nothing there. Compared to some years during the wet season when we get enough rainfall, the breeding season flourishes with stinging nettle. And the tricolors love stinging nettle. The reason why is because stinging nettle, and I don't know if you guys have touched stinging nettle has little hairs at the edges of their leaves where it has acid that when it touches you, it stings. So obviously a predator is not going to want to go through a patch of stinging nettle just to get through to 1 or 2 birds. This provides high amount of protection for the birds, and it provides a safe home for their chicklings. And so, as you can see here, down in figure 4, I have made a histogram. This is a frequency distribution of birds caught X amount of times between the years of 2012 and 2019. So as you can see from the first bar, we have 70% of birds were caught once. The second bar, we have 7% of birds were caught twice, and then we have 4% of birds that were caught 3 or more times. And although it is hard to see the line on each number, there was at least one bird that was caught. And yes, we did caught one bird 18 times. She is better known as 1352-0770. That is her USGS banding number. She was originally caught in 2015 at Laguna Seca. She was recaptured again a couple of days later at the same site. And then in 2017, she was caught 16 times at Fort Ord. She is what we like to call a crackhorn junkie. So here we have a map of all the 3 locations where the banding took place. So this shows us the movement of the tricolored blackbirds between the breeding seasons. So the breeding season usually begins around the end of February, around March, and then begins around February, kind of early March, and it ends around June, July. So, and we don't know where exactly the tricolors go after that breeding season. So, doing the banding at 3 sites and tracking their movements, this shows us here, as you can see from the start of this arrow, that birds that were originally caught at Santa Lucia Preserve at one breeding season, and then at the next season, you can see that 11% of the birds that were originally caught at Santa Lucia Preserve was caught at Laguna Seca at another time, at another breeding season. This is the same for birds that were originally caught at Laguna Seca, who were originally caught at Laguna Seca, but were caught at another time at Fort Ord. So it's important for us to track the movements of the tricolors because it allows us to see that having different options for the birds to breed at is essential. As you can see here from my previous pie charts, the numbers show that even though Fort Ord is seasonally dependent, it still gave us a average rate of recaptures of 62% compared to our other sites, which was just 11% and 14. That means that birds, if they are at a site that doesn't really provide them protection, it doesn't provide them a high food source, they have another option to go somewhere else that does provide those needs for the birds. So, and also another thing that we learned was that our average rate of recapture is a lot higher compared to other banding studies that have been done. For example, we have a Central Valley collaborator who his average rate of recapture was only 1%. Ours was 14%. So what we plan to do here at the Santa Lucia Conservancy, our future work, is we are going to be working with methods such as the mark recapture analysis on the recapture data. So what that means is we are going to be keeping an eye on the population size. We're going to be looking at the dynamics of the population. With partner in Cornell Lab of Ornithology, we will also be working with population statistics while partnering with UCLA and making plot locations on ArcGIS on the abundance of movements of the tricolors. Although we don't know that much of the tricolors, we hope that the study and the work of mark recaptures and population statistics will help us get further knowledge of the birds. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Why is so important for us to do this again?
The tricolored blackbirds have an intrinsic value. They once reached numbers of 3 million. They are most common. They were once most common here in California, but now their numbers are just 170,000. So when they were once 3 million in number, they probably did have an impact environmentally, but because their numbers are so low today, we don't know. And that also gives us the question of what happens when they are completely gone. What's that going to affect in the future?
Okay. Well, thank you.